Summer Hasib, and I am president of the National Honor Society here at West. Our next distinguished alumni is class of 1958 graduate, Lester Munson. After graduating from Glenbard, Lester attended Princeton University, where he served as editor of the Daily Princetonian, the school newspaper. He then received a law degree from the University of Chicago and practiced law in Chicago and Wheaton until 1989, when he went back to his first love, sports journalism. He has worked at The National, Sports Illustrated, and ESPN, and now does freelance investigative journalism. He has made many guest appearances on sports radio and TV, and is a frequent guest on WTTW Chicago Week in Review. He is also an adjunct professor at the Northwestern Medill School of Journalism. For the last 12 years, Lester has been involved with the Hamilton Betty Ford Foundation. He works to fight addiction by smashing the stigma. That is, by educating on the disease of addiction, showing that people do recover from addiction, advocating for research and treatment funding. He also served as a board member at an organization helping underprivileged youth in Chicago, and volunteers his time freely by doing many speaking engagements in the community. He has been the recipient of the University of Chicago Alumni Service Award for his longtime support and involvement at the university, has received national awards for his investigative journalism, and volunteers his time tirelessly, not only in the field of addiction, but also with many community organizations and legal groups. His friend Susan Fox Gillis wrote, "He is a credit to the Glenbard community. He remains proud of his varsity letter G for basketball, although I don't think his letter jacket still fits." Ladies, I'm not sure, her words. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to present this Distinguished Alumni Award to Lester Munson.
Hello to my wife, who is not yet here. It might be better, but our son is here, sitting right there in the middle, the little fellow in the powder blue shirt. It is utterly amazing to me to be here. I was not a particularly distinguished student here, and here I am getting an award from Glenbard and the National Honor Society. This just is not anything that I ever expected to have happen. As the pep rally last night, to me, was nothing short of incredible. I am amazed at what we saw. I am a sports writer. I've been to many big events. I've been involved in college sports, professional sports. If this had been a rally at Duke, we would have been listening to the basketball coach, Mike Krzyzewski, for 45 minutes of boring commentary. Instead, at Glenbard, the students were featured, one student group after another. This is not to be underestimated or unnoticed. That is just a marvelous thing that went on. I did have some interesting times here at Glenbard. I want to make a tribute today in response to this award to a teacher whom I dearly loved, and she was not lovable, Gladys Kronsagen. She was the epitome of the demanding English teacher. She was known to me and to my colleagues in the class of '58 as Big Red, and her husband, the chemistry teacher, was Little Baldy. And they were two of the best teachers in the building. She was extremely demanding. The first class that I went to in her room, up on the 4th floor, she dictated some language to us from a book, and we were supposed to write it down, punctuate it carefully and correctly, and capitalize it correctly. Harder than you think. And she found, at some point, she's in the middle of a sentence, and she talks about the vast steppes of Russia. And I wrote down S-T-E-P-S. I was never so humiliated in my life as when she explained to me steps is S-T-P-P-E-S. You're all spelling it here. You all knew that. I find this out from Gladys Kronsagen. I made up my mind that day that I would do well in her class. After that humiliation, I did do well. She wrote me, Judy is here. My wife, Judy. Then the train let us down. Come on. But I did do a good job in her class. I think the vast steps of Russia might have been the last major mistake that I made in that class. I got an A, and she wrote my recommendations for college. I later saw them. She was also a brilliant writer. Everybody should have Gladys Kronsagen write them a recommendation. You feel like King Kong. When I arrived at Princeton, I was told that because I was from a high school, they didn't know I would be required to take a rhetoric English composition test. I took this as a personal insult, as an insult to Gladys Kronsagen and to Glenbard. Obviously, I sailed through the test thanks to her. I have since made a living as a paid professional writer, as Surma mentioned, at National Sports Daily, Sports Illustrated, and ESPN, and it is all thanks to Gladys Kronsagen, one of many great teachers here, so thank you. This is the handbook that she taught from. I have been carrying this with me for 60 years. It is the only textbook. I've been to some fancy schools. This is the only textbook I have kept, just as a tribute to her.